Oh, we're live.
Hi, how are you?
Excellent. Doctors in demand today, Hillary, one of our favorite topics. I think that you and I talk about this a lot because patients come in and talk to us about all these problems, all these issues, which are seemingly unrelated to GI, but end up to be GI issues. It's like my migraines, my skin is itching, my nose is drippy, and then some are GI. I get bloated. I look like I'm pregnant after I eat. All of these anxiety, depression, all these symptoms we always in our minds are connecting to the GI system. And I think that's kind of what we're trying to talk about today because it is a really big deal in our society because people's gut health is in question for many
I
reasons.
would say it's almost in crisis.
Okay, in
So
crisis.
I think that
Okay, your
since,
gut health is in crisis is the message.
yeah, well, I'd say maybe not yours watching, but like it might be coming up, and you definitely know somebody in your household or your family that are probably struggling, and there's a series of factors. I think it's definitely worse after COVID. I feel like there's more bacterial, more SIBO, which is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. You talked about it on our last show that like that didn't even exist when we were in med school.
No.
So it's such an interesting, maybe not that the symptoms didn't exist, but the diagnosis, and now it's a big part of my practice. And um, so there's just people's guts are in really bad shape, and
One question I was going to ask you is like, how do you know? Because I think one of the other things that I'm always astounded by this is that you'll have someone describing clearly poor GI health. One example, and I'm going to ask you your example, like, oh, I have diarrhea every day and I have for years, and everyone just kind of says that's normal. Like that, people say that to me often. Or, oh, I only go to the bathroom twice a week. That's said to me all the time. Like people skip days, people skip 2 days and don't have a bowel movement for 2 days. So it's interesting that we just accept this stuff and move on. Like that's just the way I am. So can you expand on that and just say like what is a healthy GI system? What should it be?
I mean, I think a healthy GI system is one that can eat most foods, that you can you can eat the majority of things. You don't have to be extraordinarily restricted.
Mhm.
Obviously, with major caveats for people who are gluten sensitive or have celiac disease, right? So, like with all the caveats, but if you can generally tolerate most things, if you go to a dinner out, you can generally tolerate a lot of food. You wake up feeling as flat as you're going to be, just in good shape. You get a good hunger response. You eat a decent amount of food, and you don't really feel much after. You're just processing. You
Mhm.
get a great, typically around the same time of day every day, once or twice a day, bowel movement that's pretty easy, not sticky, not gross. Not everybody knows what that's like when you get to poop and it's like, that was easy, like that.
Mhm. Yeah.
And then when you go to sleep, you're not in pain. You don't have reflux coming up, and you don't have a lot of stinky gas. Like, is it normal to have some gas as a human? Yes. Is it normal to have like really stinky gas that where you're like ripping farts or ripping burps? That is not normal. So, like, if anything falls outside of that realm, like if you and then I would also say, and that your energy is maintained during the day, during the whole day, that you have super solid, great energy, and you don't crash really hard after a meal. So, that's a lot of factors. And most of us are going to look at it and go, oh, that's not quite perfect for me, or that isn't exactly happening for me. And so that's the ideal.
Mhm.
And if I meet patients who are like, I can only eat, I'm really limited. I have all these food allergies and food sensitivities, and I'm really limited. And then I get really bloated, or I wake up feeling really empty and good. And then after I'm really bloated at the end of the day, I have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of work to do to help get that patient back to my ideal.
And I do get the question a lot, should I do these food sensitivities and see what I should be eating? So I think we should dive into that because that's kind of something that we're working on over the next few months with our patients individually. We're really dedicated to this food sensitivity testing, but I think that very often I hear, "Oh, I did this test and it came back with these things, so I don't eat those things." And
I
so
mean, there's a lot of food sensitivity tests out on the market. Kara and
Mhm.
I both actually have used a similar test in both of our practices. I don't know, I think I've run 2,000 of them,
Yeah.
of this one test. So I'm very devoted to using the same thing that I've looked at over and over because it
Mhm.
it helps to have experience, right?
Right,
Um,
because wait, I wanna say exactly your point, is that you don't just tell people to avoid all the things that flagged up at all. Like, that's the my point here is that I think it's dangerous for people to do that because you get very limited in your thinking. So eh, I do these tests, every few months on myself. I just like, I think it's interesting. We do it at my office. My office staff does them. And so we do them regularly because we get that concept of they change based on our gut health and what we are eating, et cetera. So they change over time. So the things that tested in my 20s, like when we were in medical school, are totally different than what tests now. But there are consistent things that I know are real problems, and then there are things that are ridiculous, like vanilla came up on mine. Please, I'm not allergic to vanilla. It comes up on all kinds of people's tests. You know what I mean? So I know, like, I don't have any sensitivity. I don't have any issue whatsoever with vanilla. I'm very clear on that. So I just want to say that that I see that as a common mistake people make, and it makes me nervous, and it's like a problem at our practice because, of course, people should all get their lab results, but reading the test and matching it to the person is really important, and just taking the test at face value is sort of, promoting stress unnecessarily for people and restricting diets. So you and I are like not all about restricting diets because we just see all the stress problems with that. And so that's a really important piece I think to make note of with the testing. It's
I had a
not
patient
straight
once.
testing.
I've
It's
had
like you need to take it with a grain of salt and figure it out for an individual, not as a
I've had several patients that have come and said, "Just put me on a really restricted diet. That's what I need. I need you." And I said, "It's not totally that's not my philosophy. My philosophy is that I'm I'm helping my patient get into alignment if the variety really opens up. And my philosophy is that we should be eating a lot of we should be able to eat the majority of things. Now, are we in a major food crisis with yes, I was running a detox program, and we were using a tea. They ordered the tea online. The tea had barley in it. The patient was reacting to the barley. And
Mhm.
then she said has been looking, and there's just a barley in a lot of things, which is a cross reacts with gluten. It's a gluten sensitive. She got really inflamed on it, and it was taking her a while to figure it out. So we had a whole conversation in the detox program about, wow, okay, there's corn in a lot of things. There's soy in a lot of things. There's egg in a lot. So in the US processed food system, we're
Mhm.
getting exposed to a lot of the same things over and over and over and over again. So when
Mhm.
you hear me say, I want people to be able to eat all the things, it's not that I'm saying that I want them to be able to handle processed foods. I want people to be able to eat all the non-gorgeous processed foods that you make when you eat like our fertility diet, or you eat like you
Whole
know,
foods diet, like whole
whole
foods,
foods
like
diet.
actually food. Yeah.
Real food, not from a
Yeah.
box, not from a bag, but
Mhm.
real food. And
Mhm.
and so there's always been this thing about when we studied naturopathic medicine, detoxing is a big part of it. And we've done many talks on detoxes, and you know how much we believe in them.
Yeah.
But one of the main things about a detox is that you're really trimming down all the extras. You're not eating sugar, you're not eating processed foods, you're not,
Mhm.
you're really like going to a party and you're like, damn, I can't
Mhm.
eat that. And I mean, I was just in New Orleans over the weekend. If you saw, I couldn't eat. I mean, there was just a lot of stuff I couldn't eat. So it's like, wow, we could start to look at like where is the fresh food? It was
Mhm.
very hard to find
Mhm.
in the South, right? So it was really interesting. Like, okay, not everybody has the same amount of choice, but we were trained kind of like the gold standard for figuring out what's happening with your gut health, what's happening with allergies, is to do an allergy elimination diet. And that was a very long process. And and we both have done a million of them with a million
Mhm.
patients. And so we totally believe in it. But we have both come to use food sensitivity testing as a gateway, as a screening. And this is what we want our patients or these listeners to know. What Kara was saying, if you do a test and you get reactivity to a lot of things and your instinct is like, oh my God, I'm allergic to these things. No, that's not the case.
You need guidance. Yeah.
You need guidance because what
Yeah.
we're doing is we're looking for patterns. Okay, fine. Is somebody just very reactive to dairy and very reactive to sugar? Okay, those two things are things that, but there's very low reactivity for everything else. I can look at that patient and say one thing versus a patient that's reacting to everything that they're eating. That is like red alert, red alert. We need to do much deeper gut health work, right? So we're using it as a screening tool rather than having our patients just read it on their own, eliminate the things for life, which is what a lot of people instinctively think they need to do.
Yes, and we're painstakingly at our front desk, like, "Yes, send her her result or send him the result, but please send the email that explains, do not avoid these foods till you talk to her, like, do not do it, don't take this as just you can't eat any of this stuff because it's not real." It's very hard. Those test results are really hard, for people, and then it gets in your mind, and that mental piece of, the vanilla flagging on mine, for instance, that mental piece, if I believed it, the vanilla is, in, the muffins I make my kids or whatever, then I would think about it way too often and have that, oh, I really shouldn't be eating this. And what does that do for my GI system? It makes absorption totally questionable. Just me questioning the food in my mind, like, I really shouldn't eat this, is not good for my digestion, right? So there's so many layers to this. It's crazy. It gets to be a lot. So I think the point being, there is a diet specifically for you, the person listening, there is a diet for you. Absolutely. And it's not the same as your partner or your children, or Hillary and I have to eat really different diets. We really do. And they're both considered very healthy diets, but they're different diets. And I will share that I don't you don't hear me talking about GI problems. Like, I don't really necessarily have, I'm lucky that way. But recently I went out with some friends and I ate something I wouldn't normally eat. It was totally delicious, but I wouldn't normally eat it. And I sort of learned I suffered for like 2 days where my stomach like hurt for like 2 days after that. And I was like, "Huh, this is why I guess I don't eat those things. Like, this is like the lesson I learned over and over and over and over again." And that food is a specific food that flags in my test. So I had no business eating it, but it consistently flags, so I shouldn't have been eating it to begin with. But anyway, I
It's
think
also
that's
a
human
little
nature.
when we're eating out at restaurants, like
It's
it's
hard.
also we're eating food that we don't buy and the food supply
Mhm,
is so tainted with glyphosate and a lot of pesticides, organic
mhm,
pesticides. And so when you
mhm,
don't eat those things, it can just make you feel not awesome.
mhm,
Many patients will report that they're okay if they eat bread in Europe, but if they eat bread
mhm.
here, they're just done for.
All
And
the time.
obviously that is something that's going on with our food supply that needs
Mhm,
to be like really thought about. So if you
mhm,
go to a restaurant and you feel I it to me, if I eat food out that's not great for me,
mhm,
I feel hungover. I feel
mhm,
as if I've had way too much alcohol and it's brain fog, it's not thinking as much, it's irritability, it's some digestive stuff for sure.
mhm, mhm.
Things can kind of go right through you if your body's like, whoa, I'm rejecting this. And so, what we're really advocating for all of our patients is that as you're trying to unravel and get to the bottom of any health issue that you have, joint pain, autoimmunity, allergies, um, anxiety, depression, insomnia, hormone imbalances, PCOS, endometriosis. right? At the core, at the very base, is the way that you absorb your minerals and nutrients and the inflammation that's created through that process.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are consistently eating food, well, one, if you're not trying to if you're not intentionally trying to create variety in your diet, you will inevitably end up eating consistently the same things. We're just human beings. Like, we are creatures of habit. Like, in med school, we had huge lecture halls, and everybody almost every time went to almost the same seat every time, or the same area, like a seat away, right? Like, we're creatures of habit. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
my seat. And it happened like from the first day. Like, you had the people who wanted to be in front, you had the people who wanted to be in, we're creatures of habit. It's the same thing at the grocery store. Most people walk through the grocery store and there's all kinds of stuff, and you see the things that some people look at recipes and organize, but generally you're shopping and you're like, I want one of these. For me, it's always like, I want red peppers, I want broccoli, I want lemon,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm like not stretching to be like, wait, I did a whole bunch of lemon last week, I should do grapefruit this week in my water. I don't have to drink lemon water every day. I could drink orange water, I could drink grapefruit water, I could drink lime water. I can change and rotate my citrus, right? So that's just an example. The majority of us go buy the same stuff all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And the majority of us have like 4 vegetables we serve regularly to our kids, or we just do the same bloody things all the time. And so the exploration of, one, what foods am I sensitive to? And if you're eating the same food all the time, your immune system, and you have some underlying GI issues, your immune system is going to look at that food every time and go, I don't like this food anymore. This keeps entering my system. I'm not exactly sure what's happening here, but I'm going to make a reaction against it. It looks foreign. It doesn't look good. I'm going to make an immune reaction to it. When our immune system, bless it be, it's a beautiful thing and it does so much work for us, and it can be really our worst enemy in our health if it's out of control and on the wrong target, right? We want it to target GR. If you get exposed, you go camping, you drink a little bit of bad water, we want it to target the giardia. We don't want it to target the rest of the cells or the food that we're eating when it's targeting the giardia. But there's a lot of confusion in the gut, and there's a lot that the gut's up against. Will you explain? You did it the other day, but will you explain the outside world versus inside world?
Mm-hmm. I will. I just want to say one thing, because you brought up such a good point on the foods. This is somewhat frustrating because this is just a pattern that we hear from the people we work with over and over again. And it's real, and other doctors talk about it, and it's been proven in all this. The foods we react to, unfortunately, it's like the worst thing, this mind gut axis. We crave those foods. So there's something in that stimulation of the immune response that then our brain is like, say I'm reacting to almonds because I've been having almond milk all the time. And I have almonds every day and almond milk, and I snack on them and whatever it is. Then my brain will be like, oh, I have to get my almonds. I have to get my almonds. It's almost like that sugar addiction thing where our brain will actually crave sugar. And so it's sort of working against us in a way, but it's really disturbing to see that over and over again in people, that even foods that we consider really healthy, like on the paper, they check the boxes. These are healthy foods. We do react to them. And so looking at the foods you crave is hard to do because we don't want to take those out, but sometimes the food sensitivity test can help us determine that too. So that's just one point. But yes, I think that it's really a crazy concept, right? That are these lumens, this tube of our GI tract. So, lot of mileage here. It's actually a really long surface area that our food is interacting with our body on. So it's actually outside our body. This whole tube where we put our food, that's considered outside world, even though it is like in my stomach and in my abdomen, it's considered outside to our bodies. And the GI system is lined with, I think 90% of our immune cells are there, like a huge amount, and that's because it's actually the outside world. It's very much just like our skin. is our biggest organ that we say, you know, because it's interacting with the environment and there's a lot of immune system work going on in our skin. The GI system's doing that. So the food we eat can contain pathogens, funguses, mold, bacteria, all that kind of stuff. Um, and so our immune system is primed to see that and go and target it. But one of the big issues is that we have to absorb our nutrients and our vitamins, our macronutrients, our micronutrients. So we have to pull inside our bodies from this big tube of exterior. We have to pull in all the things we need. And that's where the immune system kind of issue happens, right? Because then the immune system is all of a sudden reacting against proteins that look like self. So, you know, our whole immune system is doing its job. You know, it's like reacting and trying to clear out this exterior world. In Chinese medicine, it's like exterior pathogens. But there sometimes an inflammation occurs, and that's where we think the basis of autoimmune disease and where leaky gut is happening and where we have this inflammation in the GI tract. And a lot of diseases are now linked with this immune process. A lot of it's like all these preventable diseases is what I want to say. So this is the stuff like I don't want to get the dementia when I'm getting older, the arthritis my grandmother had. I don't want to like start shrinking. I don't want to get any of these things. I don't want to be diabetic. I don't want heart disease. I don't want any of that. And a lot of that is rooted in our gut inflammation. So this is why we're always sort of listening to people and hearing, ooh, that's a GI symptom. We should actually treat their gut. It's a really big deal in medicine these days. The GI system is incredibly complicated and an amazing thing to just sort of break down into the basics. So I love that we're going to do a program over the next 6 weeks, 2 months with a group where we really like break it down. I really want to get into the details because it's set up so well. You know, if you smell food, I'm just going to give you an example. If you smell food, like, I like the smell of a barbecue, or I really like the smell of cookies cooking, those smells, my mouth starts to water. That's like a first step of digestion. And even just spit is a digestive enzyme filled thing, which I wouldn't have known. You know, you just don't think like digestion starts with me smelling something and my mouth starts to water, but it really does. So I think diving into how it works and how we can support it working naturally is a really good thing to do.
And if you if you're just not in complete perfect health, or you're trying to have a baby in the next year, or you're going through perimenopause, because hormone changes really change your gut health, then it's just such a good, easy way to screen what's happening. Doing a food sensitivity test is a great screening test to see what's happening underneath. So we're really advocating that. That's the program that we're working on in our practices and with our communities, because it's just a great checkpoint. Everybody needs to know what is the best diet for you. You can follow keto, paleo. You can see, if the longer we've been on the planet, Kara and I have been around for long enough now to know, whoa, like fashion, diets go like this, in and out and in and out and in and out. And I remember one time I was eating no fruit in the beginning. That was Fit for Life. That was the diet that got me really into knowing food as medicine. And then it totally changed, where you have to eat breakfast, and then it changed. Now again, people are intermittent. It's just. But what you need to know is, how does your body respond to the foods you eat? That's like the most basic important.
We're going to go through all those diets and who would it be appropriate for and who it's not appropriate for. So it's not these diets that are promoted to everyone. It is not a cookie cutter thing. You cannot do. I'm talking about cookies a lot today. It's not a cookie cutter diet thing in the world. It's just not. It's really specific to a human individual. Maybe I'm getting them for Mother's Day. I don't know.
I want a cookie for Mother's Day.
Okay.
Okay, everybody.
Love you. Good to see you.
Bye, Stevie.
Bye.